Welcome to the Economist Word Spotlight.
Hello.
What happens when the most powerful technology on Earth is suddenly locked behind a geopolitical wall? And how do the specific words we use to describe the chaos help us understand the sheer scale of the panic?
It's a massive question, really.
It absolutely is. And to explore that today, we're looking at an article titled, Donald Trump has cut off access to the world's best AI model.
Right.
So just to give you, the listener, a quick overview of what went down. Dario Amodei, the boss of the leading AI lab Anthropic, recently released this product called Fable.
Yeah, Fable.
Right? And Fable was designed as this constrained, heavily guarded version of their world-leading AI model, Mythos. So it's supposed to be a very safe release.
Supposed to be.
Exactly. But almost immediately, the administration stepped in and just completely blocked all non-Americans from accessing it. I mean, even Anthropic's own foreign staff members.
Wow.
Yeah. And America's closest intelligence allies, too. It's just an incredibly sudden, unprecedented shutdown.
It truly is a staggering move. And our mission today is to unpack this highly complex geopolitical event entirely through the lens of the specific vocabulary used in the reporting.
Because the words really matter here.
Exactly. Journalists don't just pick words out of a hat during a crisis. By analyzing 10 specific terms from this article, we can decode the underlying strategies, the fears, and the massive diplomatic fallout.
Yeah, we're going to look at what these words mean, how they're used, and why they perfectly capture this reality.
Right.
So let's just jump right in. The very first term really dictates the whole atmosphere of this event. The article states, for the second time in 4 months, the Trump administration dropped a bombshell on Anthropic late on a Friday afternoon.
Right. Bombshell.
Yeah, bombshell.
So in political and journalistic usage, a bombshell isn't just, a surprising announcement. It refers to a sudden, shocking piece of news that fundamentally disrupts everything.
Like completely shakes up the current reality.
Right, exactly. It causes immense surprise.
Yeah.
If a company announces a standard quarterly earnings report, it's routine. But a bombshell is the exact opposite. It's an explosive revelation that demands an immediate reaction.
And the text highlights how abrupt this was, right? Dropping this on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah, which is a classic public relations tactic to minimize immediate media scrutiny. But even that couldn't contain the blast radius here. The tech world was caught completely off guard.
The imagery is just perfect because it's about that explosive impact. A bombshell detonates public attention.
It really does.
It leaves a crater in the industry's plans, and you don't just brush it off. You have to take cover and assess the damage.
Right, but an explosion like this doesn't just happen spontaneously. There's always a spark.
Fuse that gets lit.
Exactly. And in this case, the fuse was a technical vulnerability flagged by Amazon CEO Andy Jassy. Amazon had found something alarming in the software, which brings us to our next critical term. The text notes that Amazon alerted the Trump administration that it had found security flaws in Fable 5, enabling it to jailbreak or override guardrails.
Jailbreak.
Yeah, jailbreak. So to jailbreak means to bypass or eliminate the security restrictions built into a piece of software.
Or a device, right, like jailbreaking a phone.
Exactly. It grants the user a higher level of access or control than the manufacturer intended. The opposite would be, locking down a system to rigidly enforce its constraints.
Got it. So Anthropic built Fable 5 with strict guardrails, preventing the AI from generating harmful code or building weapons.
Right, and a jailbreak means users found a mechanism, usually through cleverly crafted text prompts, to trick the AI into ignoring its own safety training.
It's essentially a digital Houdini move. You're convincing the software warden to hand over the keys so the AI can break out of its behavioral prison and just roam freely.
That's a great way to put it.
But, I want to push back a bit on the narrative that this jailbreak was purely a weapon for bad actors. Because the article specifically brings up Katie Mazuris.
Yeah.
She's a leading authority on software vulnerabilities who reviewed the Amazon paper. And she argues that these exact jailbreak techniques were aimed at helping cyber defenders.
Right, to understand the system's weaknesses.
Exactly. So my question is, if we force companies to shut down access and patch every jailbreak in secret, does that actually make our networks safer? Or does it just blind the security researchers who are trying to build better defenses?
And that is the ultimate paradox of modern cybersecurity. I mean, a map of a fortress's weak points is a weapon for an attacker, sure.
But it's also a blueprint for the architect.
Precisely. By shutting down access to stop the jailbreaks, you inevitably stop the defensive research, too. But that nuance really vanished the moment the word jailbreak was associated with the world's most powerful AI.
Yeah, the nuance just went out the window and panic set in.
It did, and that reaction is captured perfectly by the next term.
Right, I have the quote right here. It says, Katie Mazuris, a leading authority on software vulnerabilities, who reviewed the Amazon paper that sparked the furore.
Furore.
Yeah. What exactly does that convey here?
So furore describes an intense, heated public outcry or a massive commotion caused by something controversial.
Like a state of collective agitation.
Exactly. It's the absolute opposite of calm, measured acceptance. In this geopolitical event, the furore wasn't just a quiet debate among software engineers.
It was a total media circus.
It really was. It encapsulates that wild intersection of political panic and technological anxiety. Once the Amazon paper dropped, politicians, rival tech CEOs, national security pundits, they all reacted simultaneously.
Creating just a deafening noise. They're like the public's emotional fireworks.
Right.
When a story touches on national security and AI, everyone's opinions just ignite all at once.
They do.
But the government couldn't just sit back and watch the fireworks, right? They had to respond to this furor.
They had to act.
And their response wasn't some polite regulatory request. They deployed a really blunt legal instrument.
Yes. The article explains Anthropic said the models were hit by an export control directive.
Export control directive.
Right. As a term, an export control directive is a formal, legally binding order from a government that actively restricts the shipment or transfer of specific goods or technologies across its borders.
So it's the structural opposite of an open trade policy.
Exactly. And the fascinating thing here is that the administration utilized a bureaucratic mechanism traditionally used for physical munitions, like missile parts.
Or nuclear materials.
Yeah. And they applied it to a cloud-based artificial intelligence model. It legally mandated that Anthropic sever access for anyone outside the United States.
Is the ultimate bureaucratic red light. When the government flips that switch, even a completely intangible digital entity like Fable 5 has to stop dead at the border.
It does.
But trying to apply an export control directive to a global software network is incredibly messy. It's not like stopping a cargo ship at a physical port.
No, not at all.
When you drop a legal anvil on a digital network, you inevitably crush people who had absolutely nothing to do with the original problem.
Precisely. And the article uses a very sobering phrase to describe those people. It says, if so, foreigners may be collateral damage in a power struggle between the Trump administration and a leading model builder.
Collateral damage.
Collateral damage refers to the unintended harm, injury, or disruption inflicted on people or entities as a secondary result of an action aimed at a totally different target.
So if you're taking aim at a specific threat, collateral damage is the harm suffered by the bystanders.
Right. In this geopolitical struggle, the foreign researchers, the international businesses relying on the AI, and even allied governments lost access. The text uses this term to suggest these international entities weren't the actual target.
They were just acceptable losses in a domestic fight. And just to give you some context on why the text frames this as a domestic power struggle, and we're looking at this strictly neutrally, just reporting the facts presented in the article, Trump had previously labeled Anthropic an out-of-control radical left AI company.
Right.
Additionally, the Secretary of War boasted about having kicked Anthropic out of the Pentagon 3 months prior to this shutdown.
Yes, that's what the text notes.
So if this export control was primarily a political maneuver aimed at punishing a specific domestic company, the term collateral damage is exactly right.
Yeah.
It's the innocent bystander effect. When two massive political and corporate giants get into a brawl, the international users are the little guys who get trampled.
That's a very fair assessment based on the reporting. But we also have to look at the other side to understand the administration's underlying fear.
Why resort to such a drastic weapon, right?
Exactly. And there is a fascinating historical parallel. From the 1970s through the 1990s, the U.S. government classified cryptography encryption software as literal munitions under export laws.
They treated code the same way they treated artillery shells.
They did. But an AI model like Mythos is orders of magnitude more capable than basic encryption. Mark Warner, the vice chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, noted that Mythos was able to break into highly classified military networks in a matter of hours.
Wow.
In hours.
Yeah, so the administration is terrified of that capability leaking out. But the real panic isn't just about what the AI can hack today. It's about a theoretical threshold on the technological horizon.
The ultimate stakes. The article points right at this horizon. It says, that advantage could become unassailable if Anthropic or other American labs crack recursive self-improvement, whereby models write better versions of themselves and thereby accelerate progress.
Recursive self-improvement.
That sounds intense. It is perhaps the most consequential concept in modern AI theory. It describes a theoretical process where an AI system gains the ability to analyze its own architecture and repeatedly update its own algorithms.
So instead of human engineers doing the tedious work of releasing version 1, then version 2.
The AI itself does the labor. It leads to this exponentially accelerating loop of progress. The system makes itself smarter, and that smarter system makes an even smarter system.
It's the AI's magic trick. An intelligence explosion where the software becomes its own creator.
Exactly. And if an American lab achieves that magic trick first, the text uses a very powerful word to describe what happens to the United States' geopolitical position.
Right. The quote notes that this advantage could become unassailable.
Unassailable.
Yeah.
This word means completely immune to attack, impossible to defeat, and entirely secure from challengers. It is the absolute opposite of being vulnerable or open to competition.
So in this context, the administration believes that if America hoards its AI capabilities and achieves recursive self-improvement first, the resulting supremacy will be overwhelming.
Right, so overwhelming that no rival nation could ever possibly catch up. It would cement an eternal American monopoly on the future.
A fortress of strength. An advantage so utterly solid that challengers just bounce off the wall.
That's the theory.
But looking at the reality described in the article, we really need to question if an unassailable fortress is even possible in the software world.
It's a huge debate.
Because industry estimates suggest that China is currently only about a year behind the United States in AI development. And that is, despite all the massive hardware and chip controls America already has in place.
That's right.
If China's already that close, does applying an export control directive to our own allies actually make our lead unassailable? Or does it just blind the U.S. to international collaboration while our adversaries catch up anyway?
And that specific contradiction is exactly what is sending shockwaves through the international community.
Yeah.
America's closest allies are suddenly realizing the danger of relying on a fortress that they might be locked out of at any moment.
Because this directive didn't just block adversaries.
No, it cut off the Five Eyes intelligence partners, Australia, Britain, Canada, and New Zealand. These nations share highly classified signals intelligence with the U.S., but overnight, they found themselves grouped in the exact same restricted category as Russia and Iran.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
And that brutal realization brings us to our next term. The text states, some foreign policymakers see the move as a wake-up call.
A wake-up call.
Right.
This phrase means an event or a jarring piece of news that alutes people to a dangerous reality they had previously ignored.
It prompts them to take urgent action.
Exactly. It shatters complacency. For decades, allied nations assumed they could safely build their economies and defense infrastructures under the umbrella of American technology.
And this sudden cutoff served as a glaring signal that relying on a single nation for foundational AI tech is a massive strategic vulnerability.
It's a huge risk.
It's a metaphorical alarm clock, ringing at maximum volume. Nations are suddenly jolted awake, scrambling to figure out how to achieve their own sovereign AI capabilities because the cloud access they relied on yesterday simply vanished today.
They are. But attempting to isolate AI development inside a single country's borders reveals a massive structural flaw in the American strategy itself.
And that flaw is articulated beautifully by Helen Toner at Georgetown University's Center for Security and Emerging Technology.
Yes.
The article quotes her saying, allies can perhaps take some comfort in the fact that this is a totally untenable approach to use long-term due to the number of foreigners inside American AI companies.
Untenable.
Yeah, untenable.
Untenable means fundamentally impossible to maintain, defend, or justify over a period of time. It describes a strategy that is inherently structurally flawed as opposed to a sustainable strategy that can endure.
So what Toner's pointing out is a logistical reality.
Exactly. The American AI boom is heavily driven by brilliant foreign nationals, researchers, engineers, data scientists from all over the world who work at places like Anthropic, Google, and OpenAI.
Right. So if you aggressively enforce an export control directive that bans non-Americans from accessing these models,
you are legally prohibiting the very architects of the technology from using the tools they are building.
which means the strategy is essentially a leaky boat. No matter how aggressively the administration tries to bail out the water and patch the holes by demanding security crackdowns, The whole approach is eventually going to sink.
It has to. You cannot practically separate the digital technology from the global talent pool that constructed it.
If you try to build an impenetrable wall around Silicon Valley, you end up paralyzing the R&D that gave America its unassailable lid to begin with.
And that structural reality brings us to the final vocabulary term provided in our outline, which serves to capture the sheer historical weight of everything we've just discussed.
Right.
The context sentence provided to us to illustrate this concept is, the invention of the internet was a watershed in communication history.
Watershed.
Yes, watershed.
What does that mean in this context?
A watershed is a critical turning point or a historic milestone that marks a permanent division between how things used to be and how things will be moving forward.
Like a fundamental shattering of the status quo.
Exactly. In geography, a watershed is the physical ridge that determines which way a river will flow. In geopolitics, this sudden AI cutoff is described as a watershed event because it permanently alters the trajectory of global technology.
Because the era of assuming open, borderless access to the world's best intelligence is just over.
It's completely over. The global digital landscape has fundamentally fractured.
It is the exact moment history splits. A true watershed means there is absolutely no going back.
No going back at all.
After this event, every single nation, ally and adversary alike, knows that their access to the foundational technology of the 21st century can be completely unplugged on a Friday afternoon.
It's a terrifying realization for them.
It really is. So to you listening, think about the incredible narrative we've uncovered today, just by looking closely at the language. When you read the news and see a bombshell announcement about a software jailbreak causing a massive public furor,
You now understand that you aren't just reading tech jargon.
exactly. You are watching an export control directive create sweeping collateral damage across the globe. You understand that this chaos is entirely driven by a desperate, high-stakes race to achieve recursive self-improvement.
And secure an unassailable technological empire.
Right. It serves as a blaring wake-up call for the international community, driven by a domestic policy that experts universally view as untenable. Ultimately, by connecting these ideas, you are witnessing a true watershed moment in modern history.
And if we step back to look at the truly big picture, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over, drawing directly from the reality outlined at the end of the article.
Okay, what is it?
Well, Dario Amodei, the boss of Anthropic, has always publicly advocated for highly transparent oversight of AI, yet these sudden, opaque, incredibly blunt government restrictions represent the exact opposite of transparent governance.
Yeah, totally opaque.
And more importantly, the digital world simply does not obey physical bureaucratic orders. Former FBI officials are already noting that malicious actors are easily purchasing American identities on the black market to bypass these blocks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Furthermore, even though Anthropic heavily restricts its Claude model in China, Chinese users are reportedly still accessing it with relative ease through proxy networks.
So the bans aren't even really working.
Exactly. So we have to seriously ask ourselves, are traditional geographic borders and paper export directives completely obsolete in the age of borderless digital intelligence? Is the administration simply trying to build a legal fence to keep out the wind?
That is an absolutely fascinating question. When the most powerful technology on Earth is suddenly locked behind a geopolitical wall, the chaos that bleeds through the cracks proves just how deeply interconnected our world really is. Maybe you really just cannot fence in the wind. Thank you for joining us to explore the vocabulary and the incredible geopolitical story hidden right beneath the surface. Until next time, keep reading between the lines.